Hey everyone, it's Kai. I hope you are safe and healthy. And for my disability presentation, I will be presenting albinism, or the other name for it is hypopigmentation. Alright, what is albinism? Albinism is an inherited genetic condition that reduces the amount of melanine pigment formed in the skin, hair, and eyes. And so if you take a look over here, I have a website provided, albinism.org. Is provided by the National Organization for Albinism and Hypopigmentation. So if you ever want to learn more about albinism, this site provides information, programs, and services. All right, looking into the causes, in order to understand albinism, you have to understand what melanine is. And so melanine is basically what's responsible for the pigment in your skin, so which is found in your skin, hair, and eyes. Um, Going more into the genetic side of things, people with albinism have a defect in one of several genes that produce or distribute melanine. And this disorder is an autosomal recessive disorder, in which case you inherit two mutated genes, one from each parent, and these genes are usually passed on by two carriers. So if you look in here, here are the parents, in which case they have one mutated gene, the recessive gene, and one dominant gene. And so when they have kids, two carriers have a 25% chance having an unaffected child with two normal genes. So if you look to the left here, and then there's a 50% chance of having an unaffected child who also is a carrier. So it's these two kids in the middle. And a 25% chance of having an affected child with two recessive genes, so to the right. Prevalence. In the United States, it's 1 in 18 to 20,000 people. In other parts of the world, it's 1 in 3,000. And albinism, it occurs worldwide regardless of ethnicity or gender. But if you look into how many people in Africa have it, it's 1 in 1,400. Diagnosis and prognosis. For the most part, you can get diagnosed with albinism when you get a physical examination. Checking includes skin and hair pigment, may include an eye examination for any vision complications. You can also get diagnosed when comparing pigmentation to your families, taking a look into medical history, and looking into genetics, which can help determine the type of albinism and inheritance. And so for the most part, albinism, if people with albinism live a normal lifespan, it can be reduced if they have Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, due to like the chances of getting lung disease or bleeding disorders. And it can also get reduced due to the due to skin cancer, which I'll dive into a little more later. All right, types of albinism. The first form is OCA, which involves eyes, hair, and skin. So far, there have been 7 forms of OCA found. And so type 1, it is the most severe, in which case you have white hair, light skin. And so type 2, mostly the hair is what ranges from going from blonde to brown. And then as you go down, it's not as severe. And so the other type of albinism is OA, which only involves the eyes and leaves the skin and hair to be similar or give off a lighter complexion. Alrighty, treatments. There is no cure due to albinism being a genetic disorder. So, for the most part, you would focus on monitoring eye and skincare for any abnormalities. If you are having, if a person with albinism is having vision complications, most likely they'll have to get glasses. And like I said before, with the skin cancer, people with albinism are more prone to it. And so, for the most part, what they can do is wear sunscreen when they go out and limit the sun exposure. All right, physical characteristics. If you look into these 4 pictures here, type 1, which as I said is the most severe, affects the hair, eyes, and skin. Type 2, as you can see, this guy has like more blonde hair. Type 3, obviously not as severe. And then type 4, which is similar to type 2. Alright, looking into sensory characteristics. Vision, the eyes might move rapidly or have trouble focusing, which can impair like learning, employment, and ability to drive. People with albinism have a pigment deficiency in the retina, and I gave off a list of other complications that might occur. You can take a look at them later. Looking into the skin, people with albinism are more susceptible to skin cancer due to prolonged sun exposure, and lack or absence of melanin causes pale to white skin. Alrighty, looking into intellectual and behavioral characteristics, there hasn't been any evidence that shows a difference in intellectual or behavioral characteristics. But looking into the social aspects, terminology-wise, majority prefer person with albinism or people with albinism rather than being called albino, just because of the common derogatory usage of it. And so I also give a list of some of the myths and stereotypes. Some people, I guess, think that people with albinism have magical powers, are retarded. Some people believe that African Americans with albinism result from an African American woman and a Caucasian man, and it's common to a lot of people have thought that people with albinism have red eyes. Alrighty, modifications. As far as social interactions, just make them feel comfortable in society, see them rather than notice them, address them as they feel fit, and respect them just as you would respect anyone else. Physically, limit the amount of sun exposure. I would also add on just wearing sunscreen. And depending on any vision complications, you might have to modify accordingly. Alright. I also added on some interesting facts, like, is albinism a disorder? It's been pretty controversial just because of the lack of difference in intellectual and behavioral characteristics. Why do some people with albinism appear to have pink or red eyes? That's just from the light reflecting off the back of the eye. And so if you want to learn more, I added in some more questions and answers, but yeah, here are my references, and thank you all for watching, and go ahead and ask me some questions.